Good morning, Jackson, Mississippi, and all surrounding areas. You tuned in to the free-range human show of choice, your daily dose of reality radio. It starts now. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I am, of course, Clay Edwards, one of the most hated men in all of, or by all of, should I say, the LGBTQ element of BLM community. They hate you, boy. They think they're gonna scare me with death threats. You ain't gonna stop me. You say I may be cancel proof, but I'm not bulletproof. Well, you're gonna have to prove it. You're gonna have to prove it. I ain't stopping. You will not scare me into stopping. The only thing that's gonna stop me is a bullet. So just a little word to the wise. We will not cower down to nobody here on the Clay Edwards Show, and I presume WYAB. I think I will speak for my cohorts because I know their constitution pretty well. They are men led by faith, just like myself. Good morning. Last night, well, real quick, if you guys want to chime in, the Mac Hike of Flowood Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram phone line is 601-879-0002. The Guns and Gear text line is 769-241-1944. Chime in, call in, text in, whatever you want to do. Send a carrier pigeon. I'm on Twitter too, if that is your preferred method of communication during the show. Just at SaveJXN. I will read your tweet on the air as long as it is radio friendly, shall we say. Yeah, man, you know, the left, they'll try to intimidate you. They'll try to scare you. They'll try to shut you up because they can't just be content in living their lives the way they want to live it. They have to try to beat us upside the head into being their allies. I'm not your ally, Hoss. I ain't your friend. I'm not your ally. I ain't necessarily your enemy either until you start coming at me. Then I'm just your enemy. But it ain't because you're LGBTQ elemental PQIA plus. Well, I don't know. The pluses are pretty bad, or the T's for that matter. I just don't necessarily like y'all by the nature of what you do. I cannot co-sign on pedophilia. So yes, I'm probably your enemy. Pretty safe to say. But I'm not the only person. You have a lot of enemies out there. Because we will not be taking that kind of behavior in our communities. Speaking of our communities, I got out in my community last night, beautiful Brandon, Mississippi, District 3, or the 3rd District, however you say that. And I heard Michael Cassidy speak at Life Church right there on 471 in Brandon. It's my first time to Life Church. And I got to meet Pastor Frank Hornsby. I believe that's his last name, according to Google here. They know his first name's Frank, and I think it's Hornsby. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And he got up and he spoke for a second. And he really, really hit home for me. And I'm paraphrasing here. I don't want to quote verbatim. Pastor Frank got up there and said that for too long, churches have stayed out of politics. And it's time that they got back in them. And I couldn't agree more. You know, you hear a black or a Democrat pastor, which I don't think you can be a Democrat and a Christian, but we've discussed that. But neither here nor there. White conservative and conservative in general, but I'm a white and I typically have a white conservative preacher. I believe white conservative preachers have stayed out of the political realm for far too long. You haven't given clear messages for far too long. The flock needs to hear it more. We need to, people in there that may think that it's okay to vote for a Joe Biden need to be told that is absolutely not okay. That is not what God would do. The church needs to be involved in politics. You know, politics has no problem getting in the business of the church, but then they tell the church to stay out of the business of politics. I believe Pastor Frank says something to that extent. And I was fired up, man. We could have stopped it right there, and I was ready to run through a brick wall. Y'all, a lot of y'all probably saw me on the video. I know Hardy did. I was sitting front row, man. I was wound up, man. I was into it. I mean, as excited as I can get. I was fired up on the inside. I probably looked half asleep on the outside, but blue collar, when you work every day in this kind of heat, it's hard to look as excited as you feel sometimes. But man, I thought he hit the nail on the head. And that's no disrespect to any of my pastors out there or my personal pastor. I just thought that the pastor made a great point. For far too long, we've sat back and been very just passive about it. I just assume that people know that they need to be voting conservative. That's what's wrong. The left is constantly winning the culture war, as we call it. And we have people constantly looking for ways to bring their sin into the church. But everybody's so worried about, well, how much are they tithing? We can get more members. We can get this. Man, that stuff ain't gonna be important in the end, Hoss. Look, I'm not one to sit here and get all biblical and read or quote scripture. I pray every night. I pray every morning when I wake up. Thank God for letting me be on the wake up list. But even I know that we can't keep going down the path we're going down. The church absolutely needs to get back involved in politics. They brought up the whole separation of church and state stuff last night. I don't think there should be a separation of church and state. I think the church needs to be involved in the state. There needs to be prayer back in public buildings, back in public schools. You can trace the downfall of America back to when they pulled prayer out of schools. I don't think there's any arguing that point at all. But I was fired up, and I'm gonna tell you what else had me fired up last night out there is all the people that showed up. And these are people I hadn't seen before, and I'm pretty active in this political stuff in Rankin County. I try to go to all the little functions and this, that, and the other. These are a lot of people I hadn't seen before. And they were drilling Mike, man. They were not taking it easy on him, but I mean in a respectful way. They were drilling him, and he stood there and he took it all, and he answered right back. And I came out of that with more respect for him than I had going into it, and that's saying something. People brought up the not being from here. How did you get here? And for me, I've heard it a million times. So I'm just like, eye roll. But maybe they hadn't. And he took it just like it was the first time he had the question. And really stood up there and explained it. And I'm just going to tell you, the not being from here thing, that's a non-factor for Clay. That's just a non-factor. This dude could have settled anywhere in America that he wanted to. He chose to stay in Mississippi. That tells me more about you than somebody's like, oh, I'm going to be congressman and move to D.C. But, again, neither here nor there. It's one of those little things, but it likes to get brought up by the guest campaign. He's a carpetbagger. Man, I didn't even know what a carpetbagger was. Maybe that just means I'm an idiot. I don't know, but I'd never heard the phrase before. There's a guy on YouTube that I follow called the Carpetbagger. He goes on these little urban exploration things, and now it makes sense because I think he's from up north. Again, that's a no non-factor for me. But there were some women there, man. They were fired up. There was one lady, I wanted to catch her name, but I had to go, and it was still going on. And about 8:15, I was like, I got to get to the house and get ready for tomorrow. 5 a.m. comes early. But she was fired up. She was talking about the NWO. She was talking about digital currency, electric vehicles, social media, just everything that I was actually fired up about and was gonna speak up and talk about. This lady beat me to it. And it's digital warfare on conservatives. And it ain't gonna be just conservatives. They're talking about the electric. Kim Wade was talking about this yesterday, talking about the electric cars, the social credit score, the digital currency. When they get ready to just cut you off, oh, you misbehaved. You said something on the Twitter we didn't like. Zap. Just cut you off, strand you. And it was kind of funny. So I moved out to Brandon recently, and I decided to go ride some back roads and just get lost on purpose so I would learn where more stuff is. And I got really lost yesterday. Some area they called North Brandon, Evergreen. I saw a water tower that said Evergreen, and I just kept going. I thought I took a wrong turn. I don't know if you've seen that movie, Wrong Turn. That's what it felt like. I finally turned around and came back, but I was thinking, I heard somebody calling the Kim show yesterday, and they were talking about that, and Kim had brought up that point. And I said, I don't think that big tech and Joe Biden and the New World Order, I don't think they understand your Nancy Pelosi's and Benny Thompsons and Michael Guest. just how rural some of America is. You're not converting these people to electric cars. You've lost your minds. And I'm bouncing around a little bit here, but it all makes sense to me. I mean, I said it the other day, country is countrywide. Country is countrywide, man. It is. There are so many little nooks and crannies. If we all can figure out a way to come together and fight our overlords, our masters of the universe, and we'll have this thing taken back under control, back to normal, back to 1950, or even better, back to 1776 by lunchtime today, if we wanted to. That's just my thoughts. I want to say something else too. As I was leaving, I met a fella, Corey Warren. Corey, if you're listening this morning, shout out to you, brother. Met some other folks. I am so honored to get to meet you people out there. And you walk up to me and you tell me you listen to the show and you tell me your stories or what got you fired up. And for a while, I used to say, man, I'm not saying this to brag, but I just really appreciate it. And I am going to say it to brag because I get to meet some of the most awesome people in the world. And it is such an honor to know that you guys tune into my show and you ask me about Jameson, you ask me about Mike, you ask me about Jim and his music show, you ask me about Kim Wade, of course, that you guys are all that fired up. You know, one of the questions I get sometimes, like, man, is Jameson really like that, like he is on the radio? And I'm going to tell you what, I can 100% co-sign that Jameson is the real deal Holyfield. He is like that all the time. He does not have an off switch. If you call Jameson, you get the same conversation on the phone with him as you do with him on the radio. It's or if you're standing in a room with him. That is who Jameson is. That is not an act. And nobody was suggesting it was, by the way. But that's not a switch he flips on and off. That switch stays on. And but Jameson, you got a bunch of fans out there, brother. they love you. They really do. But again, man, I'm honored when I get to meet folks and they tell me they listen to the show. I'm like, man, that's cool. I don't have any fancy words for it, man. Sometimes it's just cool, man. I get to meet a lot of you guys, become friends with a lot of you guys and girls out there. You know, it's just cool to be a part of this freedom movement. Hopefully, there's enough of us out there that we can keep doing this. All right, we're gonna take a break real quick. When I come back, I got some thoughts on the Michael Guest ads, and not just the part of the ad where he's bashing Michael Cassidy, but the part of the ad where he has a picture of him and Donald Trump and how misleading that is, in my opinion. We got Derek on hold. Derek, stay there, brother. I'll come straight back to you when I get on the other side of this break. You're listening to The Clay Edwards Show. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. All right, guys, you can listen to The Clay Edwards Show every Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. on 103.9 WYAB, or tune into this YouTube channel, Rumble channel, BitChute channel, podcast, however you found this video. Peace.